It's time for Veterans Issues, the show that brings you information about veterans, military, and their family. Now here's your host, Ken Robbins.
Welcome to Veterans Issues. Appreciate that intro there, Gerhard. And we are brought to you by the Red, White, and Blue. And I voted. And we'll be right back to talk to Bobby Brown about the Veterans Outreach Program. Stay where you are. Get a pen. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. Today we're talking with Bobby Brown. He's been returning here to talk about the Veterans Outreach Program that's coming up. And we'd like to welcome him back to the show. Welcome, Bobby.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate you.
Good to have you back. Now, we got a program coming up here. It's not that in the near future, but it's right down the road. And it's the Veterans Outreach Project. And it's pretty self-explanatory. You're going to outreach to veterans and give them information where they can find it. Boy, they sure need it around here. If you hear my phone ringing, you know that it's needed. Tell me about what it is and what it's going to be and who all you're going to have there and that kind of thing.
Well, we're extremely excited as we get closer and closer to the 18th of August, it's scheduled to be the 18th of August at 12 noon. We're going to start there, and it'll extend through 5 o'clock until every veteran has been helped. Let's put it that way.
12 to 5.
So we're going to hold it at the local Anniston Elks Lodge number 189, which is located down on 1019 South Noble Street. Okay. And we've got a big event planned. We've got a lot of participants planned. As you know, there's the Calhoun County area is very rich in former and discharged veterans, which make up some of the backbone of our community. What we did, and I want to share this with the audience, is we looked at it as a district level through the American Legion, which encompasses Etowah County, Calhoun County, Claiborne County, and St. Clair County. And what we've done is associated the Marine Corps League, Eli Henderson and his group of Marines, which I'm a member of, also the American Legion 15th District, all the local posts, the DAV, and the charity which you introduced, Miss Cynthia Mosley, a couple of weeks ago on Helping in Homing charity that helps vets, house vets. So in short, what we're trying to do is reach out to this veteran population, which in Calhoun alone is 10,818 vets. In Etowah, there's 7,300. In St. Clair, an additional 6,500 residents, and in Cleveland, 881. So we're looking at a target of 25,000 plus or minus vets that potentially could come in and be and somehow influenced positively by this program.
All right, let me ask you these questions, and you just yes or no on them. The calls that I get at home, I call my home phone Veterans Central for this area. And I'm not complaining, but some of the things, will you have someone there who will address the GI Bill, not the post 9/11, but the GI Bill, Alabama GI Bill and things like that through the Alabama Department of Veterans Affairs?
Well, and that's a good question, and that is one of the planks of the platform for the program.
Okay.
What we're doing is we're going all the way back. Of course, anybody that, in my mind, has the eligibility of it is an honorable DD-214, honorable discharge, honorable service. We take obviously National Guard releases. It's not a DD-214 per se, as I'm told, but release of active duty. Anybody like that is eligible to be talked to by our counselors.
Well, what I'm saying is, there's a lot of questions that since this bill came through that Senator Dial put it in. What it was, we were running against the Alabama Department of Veterans Affairs that you and I serve on the board. We were running against the wall, so to speak. We didn't have the funds because colleges kept increasing the tuition. So the money we were getting in to pay for this, it used to be you was 20% disabled and had entered the military from the state of Alabama, your kid could get books, tuition for free for 4 years of college. My daughter was a benefactor of that. Well, they had to change the law to make it 40%, as opposed to the 20%. And that hit a lot of veterans, a lot of them on this viewership over toward Pell City in Birmingham. And I know some folks, young Marines, it hit hard because they were 30%. And that makes it, too low to get, and one of them had 3 kids that he was looking at sending to college under his GI Bill. Now he's sitting down here, but he's got a ways to go. So he may get 10% somewhere more along the way, but it affected a lot of people. But there's still a lot of confusion about that because it's a new law. And so if somebody from the Department of Veterans Affairs, Alabama Department of Veterans Affairs is going to be there, they'll have that information. But what about burial and things like that? Will they have somebody there that will be able to answer those questions from
that's something, I guess, especially as we get into our age zone. And I mean, we're close, and there's other veterans out there that are.
I'm 43.
And well, I'm 29, and I just had a birthday last Friday. So, I mean, if you buy that, but I think that's a good point. Let me tell you what will be there, and then we can disseminate where you're going, because these questions are good and valid, and I think these are all needs that need to be addressed. What we're going to do is have a VA educational representative there from Birmingham. We're also going to have the VA health people will be there. We've also intertwined it with what I consider an immediate need, and we're going to have the PTSD van there. Now, as it relates, these are some of the people that are coming back with problems because of multiple tours over there. Unlike when you and I served, pretty much you could do a year and boom, boom, done deal. You could go home. That was pretty much the end of your obligation. Some of these Gulf Wars are putting people over there 6 times, 4 times, 5 times, all volunteer. So anyway, to answer your specific question, I'm not sure if the VA, if that will come under VA Health or not. I don't know of any existing program personally, and I know we sit on the board. That's something I think that we should address through the board, but that's for another day.
Well,
but
we
I can't
had,
answer that specifically.
we had when they had the supermarket of benefits, the Department of Veterans Affairs from up in the admin building, they were there to answer those questions that are state relative. The VA, some of the things that I'm sure y'all have somebody, if you got somebody from the VA, you're going to have somebody there talking about suicide prevention and stuff like that.
That's big on the agenda.
But one of the bigger things that's big with the VA is a choice program. People they still call me and ask about it, but I'm just going to tell you out there, folks, the choice program works. It works for those who use it properly. It don't work for those who don't use it properly. You get a number. I've got it in my wallet. I call that number and I say, I need to go to get my eye exam. They set me up for an appointment with whoever I want. And I chose the local Dawson Vision. They set me up there. I got the exam and I ordered my glasses. That's how easy it works. I have a dermatology on my leg. Yes, sir. The choice program does work, but I've heard a lot of people say, oh, it don't work for me. And I find out that they didn't even have a number. They never applied for a choice card number. And that's, a lot of time when things don't work is because you didn't turn the handle right, or you didn't use the shovel right, and you didn't dig the hole right. So anyway, we're running the list. I don't want to run out of time, but I wanted to, on that choice program, that's a big thing that we're getting right now because it's just been extended. It's now for reality. They said Trump was trying to privatize the VA, but really, when you can't get to a doctor and you're having problems with your blood pressure or something like that, you need to go. You don't need to wait till they set you something up in Birmingham. And it's nothing against that VA there, but the choice program takes care of all that. And I think we're running down to a break time here, but we're gonna take a pause and we're gonna go to a break. We're gonna come back. We're gonna talk more, Bobby, about the outreach programs. Say where you at. Welcome back to Veterans Issues, and we are talking to Bobby Brown about the Veterans Outreach Project coming up here in August. And as we went through, then we were talking about the choice program. I would just say to everybody out there, go get you a choice card. It's got a serial number on it, and that's your number to get things done. And don't sit there and gripe about it if you don't do what I ask you to do. So, but it does work for me. Now let's talk about this, Bobby. This is a map of the state of Alabama. It's got the different counties. It's all 67 of them. And we got veteran service officers in most of those counties. Some of them do multiple counties. And what was you wanting to bring up about that?
Well, here's the discussion about this is, as you said, the total counties in the state. There are, out of the total counties of the state, there are 17 counties without any representatives at all. Here's what that translates to, and this is one of the genesis ideas for this outreach program. We're trying to capture some of the people that these offices aren't serving. So let me tie that in. We have traveling agents or service officers that will have 2 and 3 counties.
Right.
We've got an extremely bad turnover of these representatives, and there's 2 or 3 different causal contributing effects for this. One of them is the caseload turns out to be overwhelming in some cases. And having a legal background, and I was attached to JAG in both the Marine Corps and the Navy, I've got a little bit of experience as far as what it goes through to cut through the layered bureaucracy in order to obtain the goals of your treatment. So I'm going to say this, the American Legion and other service organizations, I know the VFW is looking at it. What we want to do is get trained certified people that go into these offices that the state law requires each county to maintain a physical office. Whether they're manned or not is the problem.
That's it.
That's the hitch.
Yeah.
So what we're doing as service organizations, and if you ever need a reason why we should join a service organization, this is one of them. It not only takes care of you, but it reaches out to other veterans. But the bottom line is what we want to do is be able to facilitate claims, to facilitate educational processes to these people, to also step up and give them the representation that they deserve, not only through their service, but what this country, in my mind, owes these veterans.
Let me back it up a little bit. I saw this personally, up close and personal. About 5 years ago, the governor, Riley, put a freeze on all hiring.
Right.
And when he did that, we started, when we'd lose somebody from just retiring or whatever, we couldn't hire.
Right.
So we ended up, somebody would go from Cleburne to Calhoun to Talladega. That worked, so nobody said anything. It just kept on. You know yourself, if you ever do a job, you're going to keep on doing it.
Absolutely.
So the governor, more than once, would say to us, how you been doing it in the past? You've been getting along so far, so what are you doing now? Legislatures say the same thing. You go to any body like that and say, we've been getting by like this for 2 years.
Right.
They're going to say, why can't you do it for 2 more years? You know, that's where we got, that's how we got doing multiple counties. I remember when we had a physical person everybody. But a lot of things play in this. They said the law says that every county will furnish a place for a veteran service officer. A lot of times they're nothing more than a closet space, and they don't have and so here's my thing to the legislators that are watching today. That is the worst money you'll ever leave laying on the table. If you went to play blackjack at a casino and you won $50,000 and you left it laying on the table and walked off, that's just what you're doing here in Alabama. Because when you don't give a veteran service officer room to deal with all of his or her people that are waiting will get up and walk away. Or they'll come see a crowd and they'll never go in. And they're leaving $4,000 a month, $5,000 a month on the table that would go into Alabama taxes and whatever and use. They're leaving it there in that office because they just didn't want to go in and wait in line. So if you provide them plenty of room to do their business, you provide us in the general fund, I said the Department of Veterans Affairs, in the general fund you provide us enough money to pay for all the veteran service officers. We'll put somebody in there if, and this is a big if we can find a qualified person. Because you know and I know we have some laws, or antiquated laws as far as I'm concerned, that require you to be a veteran. Some of the best people I've ever seen never put on a uniform.
That's correct.
And there are also people who served during the time of Grenada. They don't consider them in a wartime situation. So we got a lot of things in there. We need our legislature to step up to the plate and do it. We need some funds to do that. But you're right. We got to go ahead with your.
The last point that I wanted to make, and you're privy to it from our experience at BOVA and Veterans Affairs, there are certain archaic laws that has been passed heretofore. And in it, there were requirements, for instance, on a VSO in particular. Well, you have to live in Macon County in order to service Macon County. Well, you may live in the adjoining county, and you may be, as the crow flies, 12 miles closer than the person that actually lives in that county. Yeah. So some of these are antiquated. I think I see the basic formation of why it was set that way, but times have changed now.
Absolutely.
So if a guy lives in Gadsden, there's nothing for people that live here and work at Goodyear, or there's nothing in Gadsden and live at Bounham.
We lived in Glencoe, there right on the line, and that's just a stone's throw to Calhoun County. Yeah, you're so right. That is one of the things that's thrown into the situation down in Baldwin County, and that is
absolutely,
that's a state in its own down there.
It's absolutely.
And so when you limit people from being able to do this, that especially good qualified people,
absolutely,
people that are working, that are advocates for veterans, and you can't write that in somebody's heart. That's got to be something you do.
They've got to have it here to be contributory, and some of these people come in and through their heart, they want to do this job.
And they're not doing it to get rich. If you're going to work for
you're not going to get rich doing that. And that's true, and I totally agree with that. And I think, being in some of the positions that we enjoy, again, I think that it's up to people like these veteran service organizations to give the input to change these things and talk with our legislators. Remember, veterans vote. We're already there. And the bottom line is, I think we're on the same page with that. And I urge people, most particularly the veterans out there and your families. This is designed to help your families, and then we can start talking about legacy scholarships and other aids, and do the. That's what this thing is about. It is my intent and desire to make this a cookie cutter, and maybe go up north with it, go down south with it. It's not a brand new idea. It's a supermarket, okay? Yeah. But let's get behind it and bring veterans organizations to work together like we did when we were active.
That's what they're going to do. When they go in, they're going to, like in the vegetables and the meats and the whatever, they're going to see somebody that's going to represent every one of your questions. These people that call me about, if I have some time, I'm going to talk about burial, and that's one of the most things I deal with is people are not ready to when they pass on, or they don't leave things for the family. But things like that you should do. There's people out there that can help you. That all these people that I see on your list that's coming down here, you got PTSD counseling, VA health benefits, Veterans Affairs benefits, Disabled American Veterans, Gadsden State. Gadsden State has a veterans program in themselves over there, upward mobility program, and
they do well with it.
Yeah, let's see, and you got the VA. We're talking about the educational benefits. So you got the post 911, and you got the other one I was talking about. Is anything else I'm leaving out on here? I think I got a minute or so. I'm not sure.
Well, if you hadn't had a chance to see the Young Marines, they're young detachment of Marines. Our good friend Dan Long is the tip top there. Bottom line, they're going to be there, and if you want to sit back and say that our generation or the next generation is this or that, do yourself a favor and watch these young men and women. Yeah. It's a pleasure.
I was there at the start of them, and I've supported them 150%. They are great kids, and they change over, and boys and girls. But Bobby, I appreciate this. And
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having us.
Let's see. I think probably I need to come back on here before this event, if we can do that. And let's bring people up to date on it, because I'm sure some more people want to come aboard or whatever.
We're going to add on, sure.
And so I do appreciate that. We got to go to a break. When we come back, we got news that you can use. Stay where you are. Be right back. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. I do appreciate Bobby Brown for coming on and talking about it. I'm going to have him back on here. We'll bring you more up to speed. The Firefighters Memorial, I told you last show that we would have a date for the dedication, and that will be September the 11th. We're going to have the firemen, and we're going to have the law enforcement there. We're already going to have a 9/11 service, but we're going to combine that with a dedication of this. We hope that the governor will be there. We've got an invite for her. I already got, John Merrill told me the other day, hey, you got to be there. So John's going to be there, and there'll be, I don't know who else is going to be, but I know one thing, it's going to be worth seeing, 11 o'clock on September the 11th. to see the 9/11 service up there in Centennial Memorial Park. Now, I said something in the other part about something that veterans don't do, and I mean, this may be a little bit uneasy for some of you, but when I sit on the other end of the table at a funeral home, listening to a family making arrangements for the burial of a loved one, and a lot of times they'll say, "Do you have a pastor? Do you have who do you want to officiate?" And they'll point to me. No problem. I love it. I'm honored when somebody says that. However, they'll ask them about their service. Oh, I think he was in the Army. I think he was maybe it's the Navy. But you know what? That person would really want the public to know where they served, when they served, what branch they served, what medals they received, and they don't have it. The family don't have that because the veteran didn't put it somewhere where they know. So I'm going to be honest with you. In a drawer at my house, my benefactor knows exactly where that file is. When she pulls it open, it'll say obituary. I wrote my own obituary a year or so ago. I didn't put a date in it, thank God. But it's got everything in there. Nieces' names, married names. It's got all the things that you won't know when you're sitting there grieving. Think about that. You've just lost a loved one and you're trying to figure out what branch of service your husband was in, or he was where he served. That he was in Vietnam, or was he in Korea, whatever. Think about that. Make that file. It takes a few minutes to do that. Make that file and go to the newspaper and look at an obituary and make one for yourself. I'm talking to the veteran now. I'm not talking to the family. And then make sure your relatives know where that file is. So when you pass, and know where that DD-214 is, because if you're going to get a headstone or anything else, that's the way you're going to get it. Military funeral, DD-214. So I'm not shaking my finger at you, but yes, I am. Go ahead and do that, because that's something that the best gift, in my opinion, that you can give your family is to have everything in order, so that when you do pass, and we all will, when you do pass, that they will know where that item is, where to get your information, and not have to scramble for it in a time when they're grieving. So this week's salute is going to go out to all the first responders. We've seen a lot of things happen, some bad things. A little kid was run over, killed, and it really affects the firemen and the police when they see that. So let's be with them in prayer, and let's give them a salute this week. We'll see you next week here on Veterans Issues Salute.